This is New Zealand, a country once called the world's last paradise, where life moved slower, skies felt wider, and hope felt simple. In the 2000s, it was a dream, a place of beaches and balance. People worked, surfed, raised families, and still had time to breathe. Economists called it the rockstar economy. Growth was strong, unemployment low, and trust in government among the highest on Earth. In 2014, HSBC named it the best performing developed economy in the world. Foreign students came for its universities. Migrants came for safety and opportunity. Even billionaires built bunkers here, believing it would be a refuge when the rest of the world fell apart. But what happens when paradise forgets how to take care of itself? When the system that once lifted everyone begins to hollow out from within? Because today, New Zealand faces the harshest economic reality in more than 30 years. In 2023, New Zealand's economy officially entered recession, the worst since 1991 outside the pandemic. GDP shrank for 2 consecutive quarters, and by 2024, per capita income fell 2.4%. Inflation peaked above 7% in 2023, the highest in 3 decades. Food prices rose 12% in a single year. Rents climbed 8% nationally, 14% in Auckland, and what used to be one of the most affordable housing markets in the developed world has turned into one of the most expensive. The median home now costs 7.7 times of the median household income, nearly triple the OECD affordability benchmark of 3 to 1. For young New Zealanders, the dream of home ownership has quietly died. Wages haven't kept up, productivity hasn't grown, yet property prices soar. The numbers reveal a deeper truth. The nation's wealth isn't being earned anymore, it's being borrowed. For decades, New Zealand's success rested on simple things: milk, meat, wood, and wool. Today, around 60% of all goods exports still come from a handful of primary products. Dairy alone brings in nearly 19 billion New Zealand dollars annually, about a quarter of total goods exports. Meat, mostly beef and lamb, adds 8 billion New Zealand dollars more. Forestry earns 5 billion New Zealand dollars, but over 90% of it is exported as raw logs, not finished timber. Horticulture, kiwi fruit, apples, and wine adds another 3 to 4 billion New Zealand dollars. But there's a problem. These are low-complexity exports. New Zealand ranks 43rd in the world for economic complexity, below countries like Vietnam, Estonia, and the Czech Republic. That means most of its exports involve little advanced manufacturing or intellectual property. It's like owning gold mines, but selling the ore while someone else refines it. The biggest profits and the best jobs go overseas, and the reliance on a few markets is risky. Over a quarter of New Zealand's dairy exports go to China. Nearly all its raw logs go there too. A trade slowdown, a policy shift, or geopolitical tension could wipe out billions overnight. This narrow base makes the economy fragile. When global prices fall, there's nothing to cushion the impact. For years, the world admired New Zealand's green image, its clean rivers, pure landscapes, and renewable energy. But that image hides a growing environmental debt. Dairy farming, the same engine driving exports, now consumes 2/3 of the country's freshwater. In regions like Canterbury and Waikato, nitrate pollution has reached critical levels. Over 60% of monitored rivers are unsafe for swimming due to agricultural runoff. New Zealand's per capita agricultural emissions are the highest in the OECD. Agriculture alone accounts for almost half of its greenhouse gases, and as the climate warms, the very industries that built its wealth, farming, forestry, fisheries, face mounting risk from floods, droughts, and storms. The cost of cleanup and climate adaptation is already estimated in the tens of billions. For a country built on natural beauty, the price of that beauty is becoming unbearable. Real estate has become New Zealand's national addiction. Real estate services now make up around 11% of GDP, more than manufacturing. Add construction, and it's nearly a fifth of the economy. But this isn't productive growth, it's speculation. Between 2012 and 2022, house prices soared by 130%. Yet wages barely moved. The result? One of the highest household debt ratios in the developed world, over 168% of disposable income. During the 2020 to 21 pandemic boom, mortgage rates dropped below 3%. Families borrowed heavily, thinking the low-rate era would last. By 2025, average mortgage rates hover around 6.5%. According to the Reserve Bank, 3/4 of all home loans reprice within a year, meaning repayments for many have doubled. For thousands of families, the home that symbolized success is now a financial trap. Consumer spending has plunged, defaults are rising, and as property absorbs investment, less capital flows to technology, manufacturing, or innovation. It's a nation building houses instead of industries, and mistaking rising prices for real prosperity. New Zealand spends 1.47% of GDP on research and development. The OECD average, 2.7%. South Korea invests nearly 5%. Germany, 3.1%. That gap compounds over time. From 2012 to 2022, labor productivity grew by just 0.3% a year, 1/5 of the OECD average. It's not that Kiwis lack ideas. The world-class successes, Rocket Lab, Zero, Fisher, and Paykel Healthcare prove what's possible. But they are exceptions, not the rule. Most startups struggle to scale domestically. Many move to Australia, the US, or Europe to find capital and customers. Without investment in innovation, the economy can't move beyond commodities and real estate. It remains trapped in a low-growth, high-cost cycle, wealthy on paper, stagnant in reality. In 2024, a record 128,700 people left New Zealand, the largest outflow ever recorded. Of those, more than 52,000 were New Zealand citizens. By mid-2025, another 70,000 had followed. This isn't the carefree OE, the traditional overseas adventure, anymore. These are engineers, teachers, doctors, and entire families leaving for good. Why? Because across the Tasman, Australia offers wages 26% higher on average. In mining and construction, the gap stretches to 200%. Groceries, fuel, and utilities often cost less. In towns like Invercargill or Gisborne, schools are losing teachers faster than they can replace them. Hospitals struggle to fill nursing shifts. Local economies hollow out. It's not just a brain drain, it's a slow erosion of the country's future capacity. Every skilled worker who leaves is one less innovator, taxpayer, and mentor for the next generation. Before the pandemic, tourism was New Zealand's golden goose, worth $41 billion a year, employing over 8% of the workforce. When borders closed in 2020, that entire industry collapsed overnight. Recovery has been painfully slow. By 2024, total tourism revenue was still down nearly 25% from pre-COVID levels. Airline capacity remains constrained, and labor shortages plague hotels and hospitality. Worse, over-tourism in fragile natural areas like Queenstown and Fiordland has raised sustainability concerns. Tourism was once a symbol of openness. Now it exposes the fragility of an economy too dependent on short-term visitors and not enough on long-term value creation. In 2018, New Zealand banned most foreign purchases of existing homes, but the damage was already done. Between 2010 and 2017, foreign buyers accounted for up to 10% of Auckland home purchases. That wave helped fuel the housing bubble and price out locals. Beyond property, foreign ownership runs deep. Around 86% of the mining sector is foreign-owned. Nearly half of all forestry assets are controlled by overseas investors. Major infrastructure, like power companies and airports, has significant offshore shareholders. When profits flow abroad, the benefits of growth leak out with them. New Zealand's trade surplus looks healthy, but net income from abroad is negative, meaning the country sends out more profits than it brings in. It's the paradox of the rich but poor nation. The land is valuable, but the wealth leaves with the next dividend payment. When the pandemic hit, New Zealand moved fast, shutting borders and deploying massive fiscal stimulus. It worked at first. Unemployment stayed below 5%, but those same policies poured fuel on an already overheated housing market. Then, in 2022, the Reserve Bank reversed course, lifting interest rates from 0.25 to 5.5% in just 18 months, one of the steepest tightening cycles in the developed world. By mid-2024, GDP was contracting, unemployment hit 4.6%, and business failures were rising at the fastest pace in over a decade. HSBC ranked New Zealand as the worst-performing developed economy of the year. The whiplash exposed a deeper weakness, poor data, and slow reaction. Statistics New Zealand later revised past GDP figures, revealing the downturn was even sharper than first reported. Policy made in the dark rarely ends well. 18% of New Zealanders are now over 65. By 2034, it will be 21%. At the same time, the fertility rate has fallen to 1.6 children per woman, well below replacement. That means fewer workers supporting more retirees. Pension costs, already one of the biggest items in the national budget, are set to balloon. Public healthcare spending is forecast to rise by 60% by 2035, driven by aging, obesity, and chronic illness. Combine that with the exodus of young professionals, and the result is a shrinking tax base carrying ever heavier burdens. New Zealand's infrastructure deficit, estimated between $200 billion and $400 billion, adds to the strain. Roads, hospitals, and water systems are aging faster than they can be rebuilt. Every delay compounds future costs. Every year of political hesitation makes the mountain steeper to climb. New Zealand was once defined by fairness, the fair go ethos that promised everyone a chance. But that promise is fading. Over 400,000 people now rely on welfare, the highest number since the 1990s. Food bank use has tripled in 5 years. 1 in 7 children lives in material hardship. For Maori and Pacifica families, unemployment and poverty rates remain far above national averages. Meanwhile, the top 10% of households now hold over 60% of total wealth, while the bottom half own less than 2%. This widening divide isn't just economic, it's psychological. The sense of belonging, of shared destiny that once defined New Zealand society is quietly unraveling. So where does that leave this once rockstar nation? A small, beautiful country at the edge of the world, still blessed with stability, resources, and people who care deeply. But it is now trapped in a model that rewards speculation over creation and survival over innovation. Look at the pressures. Its infrastructure deficit alone is estimated at more than 200 billion New Zealand dollars, and some assessments say over 1 trillion New Zealand dollars across the next 3 decades to bring systems up to OECD standard. Exports remain highly concentrated. Roughly 60% of goods exports stem from primary sectors such as dairy, meat, and forestry. Diversification remains slow. While bilateral exports to the US jumped to about 14.6 billion New Zealand dollars in goods and services in the year to March 2024, the bulk remains traditional agriculture. On the productivity front, New Zealand's labor productivity growth has averaged about 0.3% per year over the past decade, far below the OECD average of approximately 1.5%. It's not too late. The foundations are still there: the ingenuity, the decency, the land, and the social capital. But the clock is ticking. Without bold structural reform, diversifying exports into higher value goods and services, investing significantly in research and development, rebalancing housing markets, and rebuilding infrastructure, the country risks sleepwalking into a state of permanent decline. Because when a nation spends more on servicing its past than building its future, the real question becomes, what happens when the engines of growth stall and only one lane remains open? Speculation. This is New Zealand, the paradise that forgot how to dream beyond its comfort, the country that traded complexity for simplicity and growth for speculation. It's still stunning, still peaceful, still envied around the world. But beneath that beauty, a quiet erosion continues of opportunity, equality, and hope. The rich on paper image hides the truth that real incomes have stagnated. Wealth is locked into non-productive assets, and the young increasingly choose to leave rather than wait. The current account deficit widened to 3.4 billion New Zealand dollars for the June 2025 quarter, signaling capital outflows and structural vulnerabilities. History will remember how a nation so rich in nature and talent became poor in vision, and how its people, once known for resilience and fairness, found themselves asking a painful question: what happens when the lucky country runs out of luck?